Dada, my question is about relationship, particularly the intimacy, love, and marital relationship. Those immigrants or other people also, they establish a marital relationship, and there has been very traumatic breakdown of those relationships. Very much, even those cultures, they had a very rich culture to begin with, but when they come to the West, the same. And in this other country also, that's growing like anything. My first question is, what contributes to a relationship full of ishq or love, the intimacy, and also value-based life?
Well, I think we were talking in my talk this morning about the yamas and niyamas and how following the yamas and niyamas helps create a harmonious base, harmonious relationships. So if you really understand these principles and keep them in your heart and try to follow them as part of your code of everyday living, for example, ahimsa, non-harming, if you follow that in your relationship with your partner and you are guided by that and you don't do anything which will harm the person's progress physically, mentally, or spiritually, then that is obviously going to help. If you follow the principle of satya, means speaking with a sense of benevolence and kindness, with the true interest of the person's welfare. If you are guided by that principle, then only things that have that spirit of welfare will come out of your mouth. And then if we think about brahmacharya, seeing the divine, if you can see in your spouse that here is the God in front of me in the form of my wife or my husband, and that's going to have a powerful impact on how you respect your spouse. If we think about asteya, asteya also has a means of kind of giving proper recognition for others' contributions, not cheating people and so forth. If we think about aparigraha, just being simple in one's own needs so that there is enough for everybody. So all those things will help with the relationship. And then I think we have a practice in Ananda Marga where we remember our promises. So in the Ananda Marga marriage system, the husband and wife both make promises to look after each other's physical, mental, and spiritual well-being and growth. And they make a promise for each one of those, right? So I promise that I will look after my wife's. And then if you remember those promises every morning, when you wake up, the first thing that you do, you remember your 3 promises to help your wife's physical growth, mental development, and spiritual growth. That's going to have a huge impact. That means that you come to your marriage as a spiritual path. You are 2 people on the spiritual path together, and you are both supporting each other's all-round growth. So I think, people just wander into relationships, and their relationships are not guided by principles, and they don't see their relationship as a spiritual journey. So of course they get overwhelmed by other things.
Yes, that's very true. These are deeper knowledge and philosophical kind of approach of understanding that. But as an individual person, both wife or husband, for that matter, they have this propensity of greed, anger or hostility, jealousy, all those things. And I understand that in our system, all these are also related to the chakra. In that line, could you also explain that how these the jealousy, the excessive greed, the anger, the hostility, all those kind of things, where they are located in our body system and how that can be cleaned.
Well, if you look in that thing that I sent you about the chakras, you'll also see where exactly each of the 50 human propensities are located. I don't have them memorized, so I won't try to talk about that exactly now, but the lower, more animalistic tendencies are in the lower chakras, and the more human ones are in the heart chakra, and the more divine ones are in the, you could say that reptilian tendencies are in the second chakra, mammalian tendencies are in the third chakra, human tendencies are in the fourth chakra, and divine tendencies in the fifth chakra. And if you practice asanas properly, certain asanas are focused on different chakras. Some of the asanas may reduce the secretion of hormones and help you control or limit tendencies which are not helpful for your spiritual progress. And other postures may stimulate the secretion of hormones and help you express more confidently propensities which are supporting your spiritual progress. And also, as you get control of this chakra, so the left side of the chakra is related to the physical propensities, and the right side of the chakra is the left side is related to the external expression, and the right side is related to the internal expression. So by controlling this chakra, you can also get more control over your internal expression and external expression. And if you know how they are related to the breath, so when the left side is dominant, the breath will be coming through the right nostril. When the right side is dominant, the breath will be coming through the left nostril. If you do your spiritual practice when the breath is flowing through the left side, it will strengthen your internal movement and reduce your external movement. Same way with the asanas. If you practice your asanas when the breath is flowing through the left nostril, it will also help you become more deeply internalized.
Great, Dada. In a little bit social level, the literature also says that it's not enough to have a emotional intimacy with your partner, but in the societal context also there should be intimacy, means that doing the charity work together, going to the pilgrimage together, or doing some kind of social work together, involving other partner. That also create a creative and also a bond, a meaningful bond. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yes, and even within the home, helping each other wash the dishes or do the chores. The best way to get in sync or get in step with another person is to help them with their work or to work alongside the person. So it's a great way to improve domestic relationships by helping each other with the tasks that you have to share.
If there is a difference in the so-called intellectual level, understanding of outer world, and also, there are also different kind of, husband is having a kind of high class job, for example, or a kind of a big scholar or professor, and women do not have that kind of access, so she is doing other most important job. She is the homemaker in many situations. So in such situation, how to bring the intellectual intimacy?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think thinking about that question of the promise that you make to support your spouse's intellectual development. So I would say that if there is a big gap, then every human being wants to increase knowledge and awareness and their education. So I would say supporting your spouse's further education and development, and taking time to help them, learn something, acquire new skills, acquire new knowledge. Really taking an interest in in a way that suits them, not forcing them, but,
Sure. So interest, for example, if the woman is having a different kind of job, in the social status context, they may call it lower job, for example, other kind of job, and then that itself there is a nobility around it. One can be very like Bismaya Bhav, a kind of with a sense of wonder to know how she makes those kind of story, those kind of things, how she makes cookies, for example, or if the man is doing other kind of job, to take much interest on that and asking question like, if Parvati would not have asked a question, if it would not have been a dialogical, the Tantra would not have been existed, right?
Yeah. In Ananda Marga, Baba put a lot of importance on being an all-round person. So you should develop the qualities in yourself of worker, of warrior, of merchant, and of intellectual. And you should be strong in all four of those. And so taking an interest in the home, in doing all, if a person is a very intellectual person and doesn't take part in the other aspects, then that will cause isolation and maybe even hostility from the spouse. But and then I think I enjoy someone's explanation of boredom. If you are a very intellectual person, you may get bored with other things, but somebody defined boredom as a lack of focus or a lack of attention. So if you take an interest in what your wife is doing and just put your focus there, then that will, you might find yourself enjoying it, enjoy that being focused on something, simple or maybe more physical or,
At the existence, it's a final question, Dada. At the existential level, they say that this universe is not but a pulsating, a harmonious dance of Shiva and Shakti, the energy and consciousness. Could you elaborate that further?
Yeah. When I look at the swastika symbol, the cross at the center of it represents Shiva and Shakti, right? And the hooks represent their kind of ongoing dynamic or relationship, because at the beginning, as the universe comes into existence, we have Shakti is unexpressed, right? It's present. Shakti is always present. It's like you with your creative power. You may use that creative power or you may not, but even when you are not using it, it is present, right? And when you decide to use it, then you express your creativity. So in the beginning, before the creation comes into existence, both those principles are fundamentally there. You cannot have a creation unless there is a power to create. And you also need the witnessing consciousness that witnesses and validates that existence, right? So God uses his creative power to begin to transform or mutate a certain portion of his awareness into mind and matter, right? So as he is doing that, he is using his Shakti to compress and increase the manifestation of Shakti, but the consciousness begins to decrease, right? So when you have a stone, you have the maximum expression of Shakti or force, compression, and consciousness has been also compressed and limited. So there's no expression of awareness in the stone. But there is that latent, because that stone is mind, it's consciousness compressed into mind and mind compressed into matter, it is latent within that. And as that stone undergoes impacts from the environment, life begins to emerge and consciousness begins to push back against the bondage of Prakriti in the form of individual living beings. So through evolution, consciousness gradually expands, and there's a fight. It expands through fight. So through the struggles with the environment, and then later on through the struggles with ideas, consciousness, the bondage of Prakriti is gradually pushed back. The compressed wavelength begins to lengthen, and finally, through deliberately adopting spiritual practice, that wavelength is stretched out and once again becomes a straight line. So if Shiva is the straight line and Shakti is the compressing force, then a portion of Shiva is compressed into matter. That latent consciousness is there. Through clash with the environment, it begins to expand, and then through conscious adoption of spiritual practice, it is deliberately extended and once again becomes a straight line. So a line compressed into a dense wave and then expanded once again back to the straight line.
So in this differentiated context, when Shiva is revealing so many agamas, the revealed knowledge, and Parvati is understanding it is and taking it, and also when she is giving the nigama, the Veda comes into being, and then also I think Shiva has also valued that one equally, and that's why the Shiva Shakti principle works. So that's why I think the same thing has to be understood in a bigger context to maintain the marital relationship, the harmony between Shiva and Shakti. Thank you very much, Dada.
You're welcome.
Thank you.